On our wedding day, Lu Xingji's childhood sweetheart, Su Yao, threatened to jump off a building. He ignored her and proceeded with our ceremony, but the moment she leapt from the rooftop, he completely panicked. From that day on, Lu Xingji retreated to a temple, becoming the renowned and aloof ascetic monk. In the name of atonement, he forced me to copy 1,000 sutras and kneel my way up a 100-meter staircase, a torment that ultimately cost me my unborn child. On the day I miscarried, I asked him for a divorce, but he said we owed Su Yao and had to atone together. He used my family to threaten me, chaining me to his side and grinding away my entire life. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on my wedding day. This time, I decided to push him towards Su Yao, and I will be the one, the unattainable white moonlight that drives him to renounce the world. Tell Su Yao if she wants to die, then let her die. I'm certainly not going to go and placate her. Lu Xingji's icy voice reached my ears. I jolted awake with a start and looked up to see my own reflection in the mirror. Clad in a wedding dress, I realized I had been reborn into what I once believed was the happiest moment of my life. Behind me, Lu Xingji's face was stern, his tone impatient. In my past life, at this very moment, I had been so grateful that he had always chosen me, steadfastly, between me and Su Yao, but only now did I realize that beneath his impatience, there was also a layer of restless agitation. Perhaps his heart had long been lost to Su Yao's persistent devotion, yet, to avoid the scandal of betrayal and infidelity, he insisted on marrying me and bringing me home. It wasn't until Su Yao's death that he finally understood his own heart and became consumed by a mad, obsessive love. To atone to his beloved, he used every means at his disposal. Trapping me for a lifetime, he turned to Buddhism for the one he loved, yet showed no mercy. Callously grinding away the life of my child, everyone praises his undying devotion to his childhood sweetheart, while vilifying me as the despicable homewrecker who came between them. He deserves to spend his whole life never finding true love. But the truth is, back then, it was Lu Xingji who pursued me relentlessly for 4 years, all gentle, attentive, and utterly persistent. I only said yes because I saw his sincerity. Lu Xingji was the one who started this. What did I do wrong? Given a second chance at life, I won't have this man anymore. I grabbed Lu Xingji's sleeve and said gently, Xingji, you should go and comfort Xin Yao. Lu Xingji was taken aback for a moment, looking at me with disbelief. After all, in the past, every time Xin Yao popped up to ruin our dates, I would fly into a rage. In my eyes, Xin Yao was a manipulative green tea girl, a spoiled rich kid who threw her weight around, a love-struck, childish academic slacker. Any private contact between them would send me into a major fit. So why the sudden change of heart? Seeing my serious expression, his face turned cold, and he asked in bewilderment, you want me to leave you on our wedding day to see another woman, Qingxi? Do you have any idea what the tabloids will say about you the moment I step out that door? I sneered inwardly. Gossip couldn't destroy me, but he could. I feigned magnanimity and said, Xingji, I don't care what stories people spin about me, as long as your feelings for me are genuine. Besides, our wedding can be postponed, but you and she grew up together. If anything were to really happen to her, I'm afraid you'd regret it, and I would blame myself. What's more, it's a human life. Even if she weren't Xin Yao, but just a stranger, I would still pause the wedding to save her. Everyone who heard my words praised my noble-mindedness, innocence, and kindness. Even Mr. and Mrs. Lu, who had previously looked down on me, showed approving looks. Lu Xingji held me tight, kissed my forehead, and said with emotion, I knew I made the right choice. Qingxi, wait for me. Once I've rescued Xin Yao, we'll continue with our wedding. I nodded and gave him a gentle push. Go, hurry, saving her is what matters. Without another moment's hesitation, he turned and sprinted towards the rooftop. I watched his retreating figure, my hands gripping the hem of my wedding dress so tightly it was the only thing that stopped them from trembling with emotion. Lu Xingji, in our last life, you hated me for a lifetime because of Xin Yao. In this life, I set you free. I wish you and your Xin Yao a long and happy life together. To prove the depth of my feelings, I stood silently on the stage in my heavy wedding gown, waiting for Lu Xingji for a full hour. The audience below watched the drama unfolding upstairs with rapt attention, all the while casting pitying glances at the sensible and kind-hearted me. Lu Xingji returned soon enough, but standing beside him was Xin Yao, clad in a wedding dress. I had almost forgotten. In my past life, Xin Yao had jumped to her death wearing that very wedding gown. At that moment, a smug look on her face, she clung to Lu Xingji's arm and stared at me with open defiance. Instantly, the entire wedding banquet was abuzz with whispers, and the looks everyone gave me were filled with nothing but pity. Lu Xingji looked at me with great difficulty and said, Qingxi, Yao Yao said, she has loved me for many years and wants to hold a wedding with me to fulfill her wish. As long as I agree, she won't bother us anymore. So, let's give today's ceremony to her. Lu Xingji's words caused the entire wedding hall to erupt in an uproar. No one could have imagined that after I kindly let him interrupt our wedding to save another woman, he would come back and make such an outrageous request. Even Mrs. Lu, who had never thought much of me, found her son's behavior utterly disgraceful. Frowning, she scolded him. This is preposterous, Xingji, marriage is not a game. How can you change the bride at the last minute? Mr. Lu also disapprovingly furrowed his brow, but he remained silent, clearly already calculating something else in his mind. Lu Xingji also felt he had wronged me. Looking at me, he said, I'm the one at fault here. I will make it up to you someday. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some looked at me with pity, while others sneered, thinking I was just putting on a show of magnanimity and had brought this humiliation upon myself. But I paid them no mind. Instead, I wore an expression of someone enduring a profound disgrace for the sake of the Lu family's dignity, my eyes glistening with unshed tears as I spoke. It's all right. From the moment I chose to save Miss Shin, I had already resolved to prioritize her feelings above all else. Shin Yao instantly retorted with displeasure. It was Brother Lu who saved me. If he hadn't agreed to marry me today, I would have jumped anyway. What does any of this have to do with you? This statement prompted those who already sympathized with me to start speaking up on my behalf. Amidst the chorus of overlapping comments from the crowd, Shin Yao finally realized it was I who had persuaded Lu Xingji to rescue her. A flicker of embarrassment crossed her face, but she quickly regained her haughty composure and declared, if Brother Lu hadn't wanted to save me, no one could have talked him into it. When it comes down to it, it's because I hold a place in his heart. Exposed. Lu Xingji flew into a rage instantly. Shin Yao, he snapped. If it weren't for the ties between our families, I wouldn't have lifted a finger for you. For your sake, Qingxi has endured so much. If you keep acting up and trying to drive a wedge between us, you can go right back to your penthouse. Shin Yao's eyes reddened with resentment. She wanted to say something, but seeing that not a single soul around would speak up for her, she could only lower her head and yield. Brother Lu, I'm sorry, she said meekly. I just love you too much. Since Song Qingxi is willing to step aside for the wedding, let's just get on with it quickly. We shouldn't keep the guests waiting. Lu Xingji looked at me hesitantly. I just smiled, stepped off the stage, and headed to the dressing room to change. Before I even reached the dressing room, the sound of music drifted from the front hall. By the time I entered, I could already hear Shin Yao's heartfelt confession. After I had removed my makeup and changed back into my own clothes, a hotel staff member rushed over, saying there was a commotion up front. I hurried to the front hall. The moment I arrived, I saw Lu Xingji pinning my nephew, Song Yunhai, to the ground and beating him. Shin Yao stood to the side, looking utterly disheveled as if someone had thrown juice on her. Stamping her foot, she shrieked, beat that wretched scum to death. I stormed over in a fury, grabbing Lu Xingji's arm and shouting angrily, Lu Xingji, let go of him this instant. Yunhai saw me and called out with red-rimmed eyes, Auntie, he was the only bloodline my sister left me, and in my past life, he was the weakness Lu Xingji used to control me. Later, consumed by guilt over what he'd done to me, he leapt from a tall building, ending his own young life. This plunged me into a deep depression, and I soon fell gravely ill and passed away, given a second chance at life. Seeing my nephew standing safe and sound before me, I couldn't hold back my tears. But Lu Xingji paid me no mind. With a forceful jerk of his arm, he threw me to the ground. The next moment, a sharp, dragging pain shot through my lower abdomen. A chill ran through my entire body. I had almost forgotten. At this time in my previous life, I was already pregnant. Only when he saw me fall to the ground did Lu Xingji stop. He rushed over immediately, trying to help me up. With red-rimmed eyes, I pushed him away. At the same moment, Yunhai rushed over and knelt before me, helping me up as he asked with concern, Auntie, are you okay? I shook my head and held him, saying, Auntie's fine. That's what I said, but a sharp pain gripped my lower abdomen. A dreadful feeling crept over me. I might be losing the baby, but that's exactly what I wanted. I feel sorry for this child, but I don't want it to be born into a loveless environment, nor do I want it to carry the blood of a despicable person. While I was lost in thought, Shin Yao's mother stormed over and said angrily, Song Qingxi, your nephew splashed juice all over my daughter. If Xingji hadn't taught him a lesson, our Song family would never have let him off the hook. Lu Xingji quickly explained, Qingxi, I only disciplined Xiaohai to appease the Song family's anger. Don't worry, I held back. He's not hurt. I shot him a glare, my teeth clenched in fury. Yunhai's mouth was bleeding, and his face was swollen to a pulp. And this is what he calls holding back. Under the weight of my resentful stare, Lu Xingji, knowing he was in the wrong, lowered his head. I turned to Mrs. Shen and said with a sneer, "Mrs. Shen, just half an hour ago, your daughter was on the rooftop threatening to kill herself. It was I who persuaded my groom to go and save her. By all accounts, I am your daughter's savior. My nephew rushed here from school for the wedding, only to find the bride had been swapped." Thinking his aunt had been wronged, he couldn't help himself and threw a drink on the bride, trying to get some justice for me. "So, do you think my good deed as a savior can cancel out his transgression?" Madame Shen frowned slightly. She had intended to refute my words, but seeing everyone's eyes on her, she merely snorted coldly and fell silent. With Yunhai's support, I slowly got to my feet. Lu Xingji asked with concern, "Qingxi, you look so pale, what's wrong?" I ignored him and said to Yunhai, "Call an ambulance." Yunhai immediately called an ambulance for me. Lu Xingji asked nervously, "What happened? Why call an ambulance? I only gave you a little push. It can't be that bad, can it?" Shen Yao sneered. "Is this your pathetic attempt to make brother Lu worry about you?" Lu Xingji frowned. "Is that true, Qingxi? I don't appreciate you resorting to such underhanded tricks." Yunhai was so furious he wanted to throw a punch, but I held him back. I said, "Help me to the door." Yunhai quickly steadied me. Clutching my stomach against the dull, swelling pain, I slowly made my way towards the hotel entrance. Lu Xingji moved to stop me, but just then someone shouted, "Miss Shen has fainted." His attention snapped to Shen Yao. He scooped her up and cried, "To the hospital." I turned back and saw Lu Xingji's anxious face in the crowd. A sharp pang of heartache shot through me, even during the most passionate moments of our relationship. His choice had always been Shen Yao. If only I had realized it sooner, I would never have ended up in such a miserable state in my past life. Yunhai comforted me with a pained heart, saying, "Auntie, you still have me. Don't be sad. I'll always be by your side." Holding his hand, my heart felt warm, and I said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm not sad, dear." But Yunhai didn't believe me. He declared angrily, "When I grow up, I won't let anyone bully you ever again." As we were speaking, we arrived at the hotel entrance. Since the hospital was nearby, the ambulance arrived quickly. Before I could even say a word, Mrs. Shen rushed out and cried, "Doctor, please help my daughter. She's fainted." Then, someone shoved me aside forcefully. If Yunhai hadn't caught me, I would have taken a nasty fall. I looked up in fury to see Lu Xingji carrying Shen Yao out. When he saw me, he showed no remorse whatsoever. Instead, he stated as if it were the most natural thing in the world, "Qingxi, you just took a fall. But Yao Yao is different. She fainted. She needs to get to the hospital immediately to find out why. So, let her have the ambulance. I'll have the driver take you home to rest." The pain in my lower abdomen was growing more intense. I shook my head and said, "No, I can't. I have to go to the hospital." I knew Shen Yao was faking it, and I absolutely couldn't gamble with my own life. Mrs. Shen rushed up to me and slapped me hard across the face, snarling, "You little bitch. How dare you compete with my daughter?" Yunhai tried to fight back, but the bodyguards pinned him to the ground. I immediately collapsed to the floor as well. The searing pain racked my body with tremors, and I looked desperately toward Lu Xingji for help. He avoided my gaze and said, "Aunt Shen is just too worried about Yao Yao. Besides, this is a matter of life and death. Qingxi, this is no time for petty jealousy." The others all started blaming me too, saying that when I told Lu Xingji to save Shen Yao earlier, I was just putting on an act. Just like that, Lu Xingji carried Shen Yao right past me and quickly boarded the ambulance. Before leaving, he looked at me and said, "Qingxi, you've always been kind-hearted. I'm sure you understand why I had to make this choice, right?" Before I could answer, he ducked into the car. As the ambulance sped away, I shouted in fury, "Lu Xingji, you're a complete and utter bastard." The next moment, someone pointed at my leg in horror and screamed, "Ah, blood, she's bleeding so much." In the end, I was taken to the hospital by Lu Xingji's arch-rival, Chen Xinian. I was a bit surprised, because at this time in my previous life, he should have been on a flight to Australia. The Chen family later gradually transferred their assets there and settled down permanently. It wasn't until after my death that Chen Xinian appeared. He attended my funeral as my university classmate. I still remember how he wept bitterly at my grave, cursing me for being blind. How is it that in this life, he appeared at the hotel entrance? Could it be that my rebirth has also triggered many changes in this world? Before I could even ask him, I had already passed out. I woke to the sound of an argument. I slowly opened my eyes. Following the noise, I saw Lu Xingji at the ward door, ranting and raving in a furious rage. Yunhai and Chen Xinian stood like two solid walls, blocking his way in. Lu Xingji roared, "Chen Xinian, what gives you the right to stop me from seeing my wife? You're nothing. Who the hell are you to interfere in our business? Chen Xinian let out a cold snort and said, Lu Xingji, have you no shame? You stole the ambulance meant for Qingxi, causing her to hemorrhage and nearly die on the operating table. How dare you even show your face here? Besides, you're a married man now. The news and photos of your wedding to Xinyao are plastered everywhere. Even your own Lu group issued a statement confirming the official marriage alliance between the Lu and Shen families. That means Xinyao is your wife now. You have nothing to do with Qingxi anymore. As her friend, I have every right to stop her ex-boyfriend from harassing her. Yunhai also shouted furiously from the side, listen here, Lu, my aunt said before she fainted that you're a complete scumbag. She never wants to see you again in her life. Get lost. I lay in bed, listening to it all with a numb detachment. In truth, I had a feeling he would take the charade seriously the moment old Mr. Lu tacitly allowed Lu Xingji to swap the bride. As for the Shen family, they were more than eager to tie themselves to the Lu family, so of course they would cooperate fully with old Mr. Lu. What's done is done. If Lu Xingji doesn't want to be utterly disgraced, he has no choice but to accept this reality. Lu Xingji snapped, Qingxi is my wife. What happened with Xinyao was just a misunderstanding. Qingxi understands me. Chen Xinian had finally had enough. He drew back his fist and landed a solid punch right on Lu's face. Seeing the two of them grappling on the floor, I was terrified Chen Xinian would get into serious trouble. I mustered all my strength and shouted, enough. Hearing my voice, they immediately broke apart and rushed over to me. Yunhai was the first to rush to my side. With red-rimmed eyes full of concern, he asked, Auntie, are you awake? Looking at my now flat stomach, he said with a guilty, awkward expression, I'm sorry. I failed to protect you. I smiled and patted his head. He was only 13, just a child, and he had already done his best. I said gently, it just wasn't meant to be. It's not your fault. Did you get permission from your teacher to be here? 9th grade is tough, and you have a lot on your plate. I'm fine now, so hurry up and get to school. Yunhai shook his head. Auntie, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here with you. I put on a stern face. Are you not going to listen to your aunt? Don't worry, Uncle Chen will take good care of me. I'd only said that last part to reassure Yunhai, but of all people, Lu Xingji had to overhear it. He lunged forward and grabbed my hand, his voice thick with anger. Song Qingxi, you're my wife. How could you let another man take care of you? I lifted my eyelids slightly and sneered, shaking off his grip. Did we ever get a marriage license? Lu Xingji's expression shifted. If that's what you want, we can go get one right now. I shook my head and let out a derisive laugh. Are you sure? How are you going to explain this to your parents? To Xinyao? What will you tell the public? I watched the color drain from Lu Xingji's face, but he persisted, saying, Qingxi, I know you blame me, but I truly never expected my father to do this. I'll go back and explain everything to him. Just give me a little time. I can sort this all out and then marry you properly, with all the ceremony you deserve. Yunhai started to say something, but I stopped him and pressed on. All right, tell me. How much time do you need? A sudden spark of light ignited in the gloom of Lu Xingji's eyes. He thought he saw a glimmer of hope. He actually put on a thoughtful expression and said, I've already thought it through on the way here. The Lu and Shen families have now announced their alliance through marriage. If I publicly declare this whole thing a farce, it would likely damage the interests of both families, especially my own. Therefore, I won't separate from Yao Yao within the next year. However, I will arrange a house with excellent privacy. You'll live there, and I'll come back to be with you whenever I have the time. Once I've fully taken over the company and this scandal blows over, I'll announce my divorce from Yao Yao to the press. When the time comes, I'll marry you properly, in the full light of day. Before I could even respond to this, Chen Xinian, standing beside me, flew into a rage. He grabbed Lu Xingji by the collar and roared, You bastard! Are you trying to make Qingxi your dirty little secret? You went to such lengths to steal her from me, and this is how you treat her in the end. Back then, both Chen Xinian and Lu Xingji pursued me, but I didn't accept either of them. Later, I was falsely accused by my roommate of plagiarizing Xinyao's thesis. To prove my innocence, Lu Xingji searched for evidence day and night, and ultimately succeeded in clearing my name. That was the biggest reason I accepted him. Back then, he truly made me feel unconditionally trusted and cherished, but now, I looked at Lu Xingji. I don't know what happened, but he looked as if Lu Xingji had just stepped on his tail. With a dark expression, he said, You're just a loser I've already beaten. What gives you the right to lecture me? With that, he looked at me. His eyes brimming with absolute confidence, he said, Qingxi, you should think this over carefully. Everyone knows you've been with me for 4 years. You won't find anyone better than me. Besides, Yunhai still has to study in the capital. Without me, how could he ever make a name for himself here? Even if you don't think about yourself, you should at least think about Yunhai, shouldn't you? He is, after all, the only flesh and blood your sister left behind." Hearing this, my heart sank like a stone, and a surge of hatred welled up inside me. Lu Xingji, I never imagined that, even in this new life, he would still use Yunhai to threaten me. If this is what he calls love, then it's a truly despicable kind of love, Yunhai said angrily. I don't need your help, I can study hard and make my own way in the world. Lu Xingji's expression darkened. He let out a derisive snort and said, Song Yunhai, you're still young, so I don't blame you for not knowing any better, but... He looked at me, a flicker of something sinister in his eyes, yet his words were terrifyingly gentle. Qingxi, you will agree to my proposal, won't you? I smiled and, under the furious gazes of Yunhai and Chen Xinian, said calmly, of course. Chen Xinian said with disappointment, Qingxi, how could you agree to that? He didn't speak, his eyes just rimmed red, he looked like a defeated puppy, all the spirit he'd had moments ago completely gone. Yunhai cried out through his tears. Auntie, please don't agree to this, I'll stop going to school in the capital. Okay, let's just go back home, let's go back. Seeing him cry so heartbrokenly, I couldn't help but shed tears myself. I was raised by my sister. She dropped out of school and went to work for my sake, enduring all kinds of hardships, to protect me from being bullied by the old men in the village. She even married the village chief's son. Despite not having feelings for him, later, Yunhai's father had an affair. My sister resolutely divorced him and moved with me and Yunhai to the city where I attended high school. Life was tough, yet filled with warmth, but in my final year of high school, my sister had an accident on the construction site. From then on, Yunhai and I only had each other to rely on. I vowed to take good care of him, nurture him, and ensure he had a safe and smooth life. Yunhai has also been very determined, studying hard and being sensible and obedient in his past life. He was the top scholar in the capital, with a future as bright as the stars, but Lu Xingji, upon discovering my attempt to flee, decided to teach me a lesson. He had people frame Yunhai, accusing him of molesting a junior and committing academic fraud. Yunhai had no way to defend himself. Expelled from the capital's university, his spirit was utterly broken from that point on. Later, upon realizing he was merely a pawn in Lu Xingji's scheme to control me, he resolutely chose to end his life by jumping from a building. The thought made me cough up a mouthful of blood. Yunhai's face changed color as he cried out, Auntie. Chen Xinian panicked too and rushed to call for a doctor. Lu Xingji said, flustered and helpless, Qingxi, what's wrong? Don't scare me like this. I shook my head, suppressing the hatred in my heart, and said to Yunhai, be good, Yunhai. You need to be obedient for Auntie to be happy, understand? Yunhai understood what I meant. He glared at Lu Xingji resentfully, like a trapped young beast. After a long pause, he finally nodded and said, I understand. Lu Xingji thought he had won. He slipped a large pink diamond ring onto my finger and vowed solemnly, Qingxi, I will cherish you for the rest of my life. Just then, his phone rang. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted slightly. I knew it was Xinyao calling. You should answer it, I said to him. Lu Xingji finally answered the call. And Xinyao's sickly sweet voice immediately came through. Brother Lu, you have to come quickly. The doctor says I'm pregnant. That's wonderful. We're going to have a baby. Lu Xingji's face fell. He looked at me nervously. I stared back at him in shock, my heart aching terribly. I always thought Lu Xingji was in love with Xinyao without realizing it himself. I never imagined they had already been intimate, on the very day I lost my child. Lu Xingji welcomed a new one, a child with the woman he truly loved. How utterly cruel is that? With red-rimmed eyes, I pushed myself up and slapped Lu Xingji hard across the face. You bastard, I shouted. If you were already sleeping with her, why did you ever marry me? Now I finally understand why Lu Xingji hated me so much after Xinyao's death in my past life. Because he lost not only his beloved, but also their unborn child. But what does any of this have to do with me? It was his own fault for not understanding his own heart, and for insisting on marrying me. Why should I have to pay such a heavy price for his loss? Lu Xingji hurriedly hung up the phone and explained, it's not what you think, Qingxi. I didn't do it willingly, it was her. She drugged me on my birthday. The next day, I warned her to never let you find out about this. I even bought her the morning after pill. I never imagined she'd skip the pill and end up pregnant with my child. You have to believe me, Qingxi, it's you I love. Hasn't our time together these past 4 years proven that? I couldn't speak. The emotional turmoil was so intense. I coughed up another mouthful of blood. Yunhai rushed over, shoving Lu Xingji while yelling, get out, you're going to be the death of my aunt, get lost, now. The very person who was stubbornly refusing to leave just a moment ago now puts on a face full of concern for me and says, Chingxi, don't get upset. I'll leave right now. I'll come see you tomorrow. Don't worry. I'll make Xinyao get rid of the baby. You're the only one who can bear my child. With that, he turned and left. On his way out, he bumped right into Chen Xinian, who was bringing the doctor in. I smiled mockingly. I knew Lu Xingji was in a hurry to go placate Xinyao. He claimed he'd make her get rid of the baby, but in truth, he cherished that child more than anyone. In stark contrast, he never once asked me when I got pregnant, or why I hadn't told him. In his eyes, I was just a toy he hadn't grown tired of yet. What could my child possibly mean to him? The doctor examined me afterwards and said it was just a case of extreme emotional distress, nothing too serious. After the doctor left, Chen Xinian dipped a towel in warm water and gently wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. Yunhai poured me a glass of water and stood quietly to the side. I said, Xinian, could you have your driver take Yunhai back to school? Lu Xinian immediately contacted the driver. Yunhai seemed about to say something more, but I gave him a look. He obediently handed me the water glass, told me to take care of myself, and then left, looking back over his shoulder every few steps. After he left, Chen Xinian finally couldn't hold back and asked, why did you agree to Lu Xingji? You're such a proud and dazzling person. How can you be content to be his caged bird? Just as I was about to explain, he continued, I know you're wary of Lu Xingji, you're afraid you can't win against him, but you still have me, Qingxi, if you're willing. His gaze burned into mine, brimming with raw sincerity. I can help you deal with the Lu family. By the time he finished speaking, his ears had flushed red. I replied coolly, what's the difference between being with you and being with him? In the end, I'd just be another canary in a gilded cage for some powerful man. To my surprise, Chen Xinian's eyes welled up with hurt at those words. He protested, Song Qingxi, I'm not like Lu Xingji. I don't need you to be my caged canary, and I don't have any damned childhood sweetheart. My feelings for you began with your beauty, grew with your talent, and are anchored in your character. That's all there is to it. My heart skipped a beat. I had only meant to tease him a little, never expecting to nearly make him cry. I quickly said, that's not what I meant. I just don't want you getting dragged into this conflict. Chen Xinian said urgently, I'm not afraid, Qingxi. Could you give me a chance? Let me help you. I found it a little hard to meet Chen Xinian's gaze. Those eyes, so full of unwavering devotion, had once shed tears for days over my death. I still remember, after attending my funeral, he was in a car accident on the way home. His fate was unknown. That day, he was the one driving, my heart aching for him. I looked at him and said, okay. Chen Xinian kept rambling on with his explanation, saying he didn't want to take advantage of my situation and wouldn't ask anything of me. He was caught off guard by my sudden okay and frozen stunned silence. Seeing his bewildered, almost adorable expression, my foul mood instantly lifted. I said, I never intended to stay by Lu Xingji's side. It was all a delaying tactic, just to keep that lunatic from going off the rails. I can't beat him, so I have to play along and bide my time. Chen Xinian said excitedly, not anymore. You can rely on me now. I replied with a smile, okay. For the next few days, Chen Xinian stayed at the hospital to look after me, though both were pampered young masters from wealthy families. Lu Xingji had never lifted a finger in his life, with attendants taking care of his every need. He is arrogant and selfish, always putting his own feelings first. He only reins it in when I'm around, but Chen Xinian is different. He is exceptionally good at taking care of others, and he looked after me with such meticulous care that even the doctors and nurses praised his attentiveness. What's even more comforting is his gentle and courteous manner in dealing with people. Being around him feels like a breath of fresh spring air. Watching him bustling about, I felt an indescribable sense of regret in my heart. If it hadn't been for that plagiarism incident back then, my heart would have actually leaned towards him. I only refused because I felt the Chen family's status was too high. I didn't dare take the gamble. Yet, Lu Xingji gave me the courage to gamble, only to have me lose everything. Lu Xingji didn't show up until a week later. Holding a limited edition Hermes bag, he said in an ingratiating tone, darling, look what I got for you. Seeing that I remained silent, he explained somewhat guiltily, the reason I haven't been in touch is that my father had me locked up. He took my phone. He said the media has been all over my upcoming marriage lately and was afraid someone might see me if I came to the hospital to visit you. I begged him for days, even endured the family discipline, just to get this chance to come see you. As he spoke, he lifted his shirt. Sure enough, I saw several lash marks on his back, but I felt no pity. Instead, I let out a scornful laugh. Lu Xingji frowned, clearly displeased with my reaction. Knowing he was in the wrong, he came over and whined to me, darling, don't you care about me anymore? I opened my phone, pulled up Shinyao's WeChat, and said coldly, take a good look. Did your dad hit you because you wanted to see me? Or because you knocked her up? Lu Xingji frowned as he took the phone, only then realizing that Xinyao had been harassing Song Qingxi nonstop for days. Xinyao had sent me everything, photos of him accompanying her to prenatal checkups, pictures of them shopping, even a video of her looking all worked up in a sexy lingerie set. As for the family discipline Lu Xingji mentioned, Xinyao recorded the entire incident on video. In the footage, Lu Xingji's voice can be heard clearly. I shouldn't have toyed with Yao Yao's affections and then abandoned her. I shouldn't have run to the hospital to find Song Qingxi on our wedding day. Lu Xingji's face turned pale, inch by inch. He looked at me in a panic, offering a feeble explanation. I did all that just to placate them and keep the situation under control. Otherwise, I never would have been able to get out of there. I want to see you. That's all I want, truly. I reached out my hand to him. He crouched down and leaned in close, stroking his face. I said, don't cry. I believe you. Lu Xingji's eyes lit up. I said, just like you said. I know better than anyone how you've treated me these past 4 years. How could I possibly not believe that you love me? Lu Xingji held my hand, his voice earnest with conviction. Qingxi, thank you for trusting me. By the way, I've already had the villa prepared, and I've found someone suitable to take care of you. I replied, all right. Let's leave the hospital today then. Lu Xingji happily went off to handle my discharge paperwork. Not long after he left, Xinyao sent me another message, calling me shameless for daring to snitch on her. She even threatened to ruin my reputation, but she had no idea that in this life, she was the one destined for disgrace. I followed Lu Xingji to the gilded cage he had built for me. From that day on, I was docile and obedient, never fighting for anything. It's as if I've truly become a caged canary, loving him to the point of losing myself. Lu Xingji visited frequently at first, but gradually, it dwindled to just once a week. Yet, every time he came to see me, a deeper guilt would cloud his eyes. That was because Xinyao would come behind his back to cause trouble. He knew, but pretended not to, because the Lu and Shen families were already deeply intertwined. He couldn't afford to offend this young heiress. To make it up to me, Lu Xingji sent me many expensive pieces of jewelry and designer handbags. In the past, I would have refused him, but now I accept it all without question. After all, playing along with their little charade is practically a workplace hazard. Feeling much better that day, I left the house under the pretense of visiting Yunhai. I knew Lu Xingji had people watching me, so I didn't let anything seem out of the ordinary, but secretly, I had already gotten Yunhai a passport. I'd quit my job and started preparing for graduate school entrance exams, planning for us to study and settle down in Australia together. When I got back and stepped out of the car, I heard the sound of things being smashed inside. The moment I stepped inside, I saw Xinyao sitting on the sofa sipping coffee. While her bodyguards had smashed everything in the house to pieces, remembering that I was about to leave, I felt a surge of pleasure. I looked at her and said, you show up here every other day, Xinyao. Don't you ever get tired? Xinyao snorted coldly. I don't have to lift a finger myself, so of course I'm not tired. Me, then by all means, carry on. With that, I headed to the kitchen. Lu Xingji said he was craving my seafood congee, so he's coming over tonight. That's why I made a special stop at the supermarket on my way back to get the ingredients. Seeing my calm and unbothered demeanor, Xinyao shouted in anger, seize her. Her bodyguards didn't move. Instead, they wore expressions of hesitation. I sneered, Xinyao, do you really think they'd dare lay a finger on me? Xingji only married you out of necessity. Who do you think he truly cherishes? Do I even need to spell it out for you? Even your parents have to turn a blind eye to me living here. You think your bodyguards would dare touch me? Xinyao, furious and disheveled, threw her coffee at me, her face contorted with rage and eyes blazing with resentment. That's a lie, she shrieked. Brother Lu loves me. At this point, as if remembering something, she said with a smug, triumphant look, I don't think I've told you this, have I? On Brother Lu's birthday, I drugged myself in a fit of pique, intending to find another man to be my antidote, but he wouldn't allow it. He said I could only be his. And then, he took me to bed and ravished me until I was utterly spent. He kept calling out my name, saying he loved me and couldn't live without me. It's just that I'm too spoiled. Compared to me, you're more suited to be his wife. As she spoke, she grew even more smug, continuing with animated excitement. So I thought I'd force his hand by threatening to jump. You think Brother Lu doesn't know I wouldn't actually jump? Of course he knows. He's just afraid I might get hurt. Watching Xinyao chatter away, it seemed she played her games too far in her past life and got herself killed. She never intended to die, yet, because of her little game, I, Yunhai, and my poor child all had our lives ruined. At that thought, I stopped holding back, rushed over, and shoved her hard. At that moment, Lu Xingji, who had been standing at the door for a long time, rushed in with a horrified expression. He shoved me aside and helped Xin Yao, who had fallen onto the sofa, asking, Yao Yao, are you okay? Then, glaring at me furiously, he scolded, she's pregnant, how could you push her? I said with a blank face, what's there to be afraid of? She fell onto a sofa, not the cold, hard floor, her baby will be fine. Perhaps my coldness today was a stark contrast to the gentle, agreeable demeanor I'd shown in recent times. A sliver of unease crept into Lu Xingji's heart. Recalling what Xin Yao had just said, he reached out to pull me toward him, his gesture tinged with dejection. Instead, I hurled the groceries I'd bought right at him. In an instant, seafood was splattered all over him. Xin Yao screamed, Brother Lu. I looked at Lu Xingji and sneered, how pathetic of me, to have even considered making congee for you. Lu Xingji, we're through. I turned and went upstairs. Lu Xingji wanted to chase after me, but Xin Yao grabbed his arm, holding him back. He turned to face her, looking at Xin Yao's deceptively innocent yet utterly venomous expression. Recalling her earlier words, a wave of fury washed over him. He slapped Xin Yao hard across the face and said with deep disappointment, out of respect for your parents, I've tolerated your behavior time and again, why must you keep provoking Qingxi? Xin Yao, who had never been struck by Lu Xingji before, immediately burst into tears and cried. Lu Xingji, you bastard, I'm your wife now. That Song Qingxi is nothing but a dirty little homewrecker. I've shown incredible restraint by not finishing her off, Lu Xingji said with a cold expression. Enough, for the child's sake, I won't make this difficult for you. Now, get out. Xin Yao tried to speak again, but Lu Xingji cut her off impatiently. Now, immediately, with red-rimmed eyes, Xin Yao left, seething with resentment. After she left, Lu Xingji hurried upstairs, only to find the door locked from the inside. Lu Xingji said gently, Qingxi, please open the door, let's talk this through properly. Okay, I replied coldly. Lu Xingji, I'm exhausted today and don't feel like talking, come back tomorrow. Seeing that I hadn't completely shut him out, Lu Xingji breathed a sigh of relief. He was about to say something else when his phone rang. I had a feeling Xin Yao was complaining about me again, and sure enough, he took the call and hurried off. After he left, I sent a message to Chen Xinian, pick me up tonight. Chen Xinian sent a photo of the sea of clouds at the airport and replied, wait for me. That night, I set the villa on fire and, in the ensuing chaos, slipped into Chen Xinian's car. As he drove, Chen Xinian said, I've arranged for someone to impersonate you and jump into the lake. Lu Xingji will soon receive news of your death. For the first time in what felt like ages, a genuine smile spread across my face. It's all over. Chen Xinian frowned and said, you didn't have to fake your death, you know, I told you I could protect you. I shook my head and smiled. No, only by dying can I make Lu Xingji remember me forever, and make him and Xin Yao torment each other. After a pause, I looked at him and said flatly, if I just leave him, how could I ever make up for the torment I suffered in my past life? Chen Xinian slammed on the brakes in shock. He looked at me, a flicker of panic in his eyes, and asked, what? What are you talking about? Instead of answering, I asked with red-rimmed eyes, Chen Xinian, in our past life, how did you die? Chen Xinian tried to brush me off, but I stated with certainty, you were reborn on the same day as me, weren't you? So, to change my fate, you cancelled your flight to Australia. You originally intended to stop my wedding, but by a twist of fate, you ended up saving me. Am I right? Chen Xinian fell silent for a moment before nodding. That's correct. I thought Lu Xingji had been reborn like me, which is why the story of this life changed. I never imagined it would be you who came back. At this point, his eyes welled up and his voice choked. I'm sorry, in our last life, I went to Australia. I deliberately avoided any news about you. I thought you'd be happy with him. I never dreamed he would hurt you so badly. I reached up and ruffled his hair, saying softly, why are you apologizing? This wasn't your fault. I was the one who made the wrong choice. Chen Xinian shook his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. My gut told me he was hiding something from me. I asked patiently, tell me, how did you die? Chen Xinian said in a choked voice, when I heard the news of your death, I lost all hope, while driving. I just let go of the steering wheel, my heart wrenched with a sharp, searing pain. I never thought he'd be foolish enough to die for love, but our paths had already diverged. I murmured to myself, why, I'm not worth it. Chen Xinian took a deep breath and revealed a secret I never knew. He said, because I feel that I am also one of the main culprits responsible for your death. If I had been braver back then and told you that Lu Xingji bribed your roommate to frame you for plagiarism, If I had told you that it was I who tirelessly found the evidence to prove your innocence, would you not have been deceived by him? Would your life have taken a different turn? But Lu Xingji said you were very fond of him. He asked me, could I bear to break your heart? I couldn't bear it, and I was afraid you wouldn't believe me. So, at this point, he was already choked with sobs, my mind went completely blank, and my vision blurred with tears. I never imagined that all the reasons I had for accepting Lu Xingji were actually stolen by him. Seeing Chen Xinian crying so pitifully, I couldn't help but punch him. He was crying like a child, sobbing, go ahead and hit me, it's all my fault. With a sigh, I unbuckled my seatbelt, stood up, and hugged him, pounding his back. I said, how could you be so stupid? Do you have any idea, if it weren't for that incident, if I had just waited a little longer, maybe I would have found the courage to take that step, maybe I would have accepted you. Chen Xinian's body went rigid. The next moment, his voice trembling, he asked, really, you had feelings for me back then too? I couldn't hold back the flood of tears. The thought that all these years of heartache were because I had mistaken my savior from the very beginning made me want to curse my own foolishness. How could I have been so blind? Someone as stubborn, hot-tempered, and selfish as Lu Xingji would never have stayed up for 3 days straight for my sake. Chen Xinian held me tightly, a plaintive whimper escaping his throat. I was heartbroken, but hearing him cry, I couldn't help but let out a laugh. I released him and, while wiping his tears, said, don't cry, we may have missed our last life, but we still have this one, don't we? Chen Xinian nodded emphatically, his face a mixture of tears and laughter. That very night, we flew back to Australia together on the Chen family's private jet. The next day, media outlets back home were flooded with videos of me jumping into the river and Lu Xingji kneeling on the bank, weeping hysterically. The most popular website posted the full-length video from our wedding day. All those provocative messages Shen Yao sent me were also exposed. Lu Xingji and she, that golden couple, were forever branded with disgrace, of course. A scandal in a wealthy family can't truly shake a corporation's foundations, but it's enough to make them a laughingstock in their own circle. Lu Xingji searched for me like a madman, convinced I couldn't possibly be dead. However, Mr. Lu and Chen Xinian worked together to cover up all traces of me. Half a year later, Lu Xingji seemed to have accepted the fact of my departure. He began praying to gods and Buddhas, saying he wanted to atone for my sins. He even demanded Shen Yao kneel with every step she took, to repent on my behalf. When Shen Yao refused, he forced her to kowtow. In her struggle, she tumbled down the steps, and the miscarriage happened right then and there. In the end, it was a double tragedy, 2 lives lost. Shen Yao was the apple of her mother's eye. After her death, Mrs. Shen was determined to get justice for her daughter. However, swayed by self-interest, Mr. Shen accepted compensation from the Lu family to hush things up, and even brought his illegitimate son home. Mrs. Shen bided her time in silence, until finally, at a business gathering, she took matters into her own hands and killed both her husband and Lu Xingji. They say that when Lu Xingji died, a plane ticket to Australia fell from his pocket. He finally found my trail after all. It's just a shame he'll never get the chance to come see me now. That night, I had just finished my project assignment. As I stepped out of my room, I could hear Yunhai and Chen Xinian's laughter and playful shouts coming from downstairs. When I went downstairs, Yunhai, beaming with pride, pointed at the Lego castle he had built and said, "Happy birthday, Auntie." Chen Xinian feigned anger, saying, "You're not playing fair, kid. We agreed I'd be the first to give my blessings." Yunhai said smugly, "You're getting old, who else can you blame for being slow?" Chen Xinian gave a humph, walked up to me, and suddenly dropped to one knee, producing and opening a jewelry box. Inside, a diamond ring lay quietly. He said, "Happy birthday, and, could I make it official?" I smiled and extended my hand. My bright eyes were reflected in the glass as I replied warmly, "The honor is mine. In this lifetime, I will find my steady, lasting happiness." The end. Story 2. After 5 years of marriage, Silas' son finally agreed to hold a belated wedding ceremony. On the day of the wedding, he was absent, citing work commitments at his company, leaving me alone to face the guests. It wasn't until the wedding ended that his secret rendezvous with his first love made headlines. All the guests present were waiting to see me become a laughingstock. I suddenly feel this marriage has lost all meaning. How much I was looking forward to this wedding. Silas' son knew it well in his heart. When he left me alone at the wedding venue, I wasn't even that angry, because I've always known he's a workaholic. I even proactively asked if we should postpone the wedding for a few more days, to let him finish his work first. But he refused. In the evening, I was alone hosting guests, utterly exhausted as I collapsed onto the sofa for a brief rest, idly scrolling through Weibo. Suddenly, without warning, I came across a news headline featuring him and his white moonlight holding hands, leaving me frozen in shock. At that moment, all I wanted was to call and confront Silas' son, but he was even more indignant than I was. She's just a client. Is it wrong for me to have a meal with my client? When did you become so unreasonable? Before I could reply, he angrily hung up the phone. I was somewhat dazed, and I don't know how long it took before I snapped out of it, stood up, and pulled open the door to the reception hall. The guests had clearly also seen the headlines and were ready to watch me become a laughingstock, but I neither cried nor made a scene. Instead, I smiled at them graciously. Sorry, let's just consider today as my treat for everyone. I'll return all the gift money one by one. After seeing off the last guest, I received a message from Silas' son. Are you done over there? If not, I can come help you with the reception. As if nothing had happened, this wedding was just my solo performance, and indeed, that's exactly what it was. He's always been like this, making one promise after another, yet never fulfilling any of them for me. After an argument, it always seems the same, a slap followed by a sweet date. In the past, I would have insisted on getting to the bottom of it, demanding an explanation, and if he didn't answer, I would have kept arguing with him relentlessly. But today, a voice in my head tells me, let it go. So I sent a text message, it's over, you don't need to come. I didn't open any of the messages he sent afterward. It was all the same old stuff, back and forth, just like our marriage, arguing back and forth, always about the same old topics. After the wedding, it was already very late. The car keys are with Silas' son. Considering safety concerns, I decided to call Silas' son to ask him to pick me up. After the call connected, a sweet female voice came through. Silas is in the shower right now. Can I help you with something? Her provocation was blatant, but I knew she wouldn't dare act this way without Silas' son's silent approval. With a self-mocking smile, I didn't say a word and simply hung up the phone. Originally, I had planned to take a taxi, but after waiting for half an hour without any driver accepting the ride, I finally decided to walk back alone. The streets were sparsely populated, and as I turned into a small alley, I suddenly sensed a furtive figure behind me. I quickened my pace, and so did he. I slowed down, and he followed suit. I was most likely being followed, and I was terrified. In my panic, I stepped on a banana peel on the road and let out a scream as I fell straight to the ground. What's wrong, sis? Are you okay? A group of male college students passing by were drawn to my scream and came into the alley to help me up. I glanced around. The figure that had been following me had already vanished. Returning home, I opened the door to find the house dark and empty. Silas' son indeed hadn't come back tonight. After a quick shower, I slept restlessly in the middle of the night, startled awake by a nightmare. My phone screen happened to light up. I unlocked it to see a message from my best friend, who was far away abroad. According to the time difference, it was roughly daytime where she was. Tia, I'm planning to return to China to start a business. Do you want to come with me? Short dramas are really popular right now. I want to seize this opportunity and gather a team to film one. However, there's one downside. If we start filming, it might require a fully closed set for about 2 months. I was a bit stunned. Ever since graduating from university and marrying Silas' son, because of his words, I'll handle the outside world, you take care of the home, I never went out to work again, but instead devoted myself wholeheartedly to managing our family. Can I do it? My best friend quickly replied to my message. Don't worry, Tia, your major in college was drama and film, and you were top of your class every year. I believe you can definitely do it. Actually, in the 5 years since marrying Silas' son, I've been disconnected from society for quite a while. Sometimes Silas' son would point at those successful career women on TV, subtly hinting at me. Look at them. They are the right role models for women. Every time this happens, I can only remain silent, because I still have to ask him for next month's living expenses. So when my best friend returned to the country and extended an olive branch to me, it was the perfect opportunity for me. It's time to pick up and relearn all that forgotten knowledge. Early the next morning, I opened my university textbooks and studied them all over again. Fortunately, my previous foundation was quite solid, so relearning wasn't as difficult as I had imagined. And so, every day I would study as soon as I woke up, and after studying, I would go out for a walk, exercise, or practice yoga. Surprisingly, the days passed by quite quickly. Before I knew it, a week had gone by. One day, I studied until late at night. Silas' son suddenly sent me a text message. Honey, I love you. The pen slipped from my hand, my fingertips trembled slightly, and a thought flashed through my mind. Midnight declarations of love are just guilt from cheating. I was only upset for a second before flipping open my book to continue studying, as if nothing had happened. Around 2 in the morning, as I drowsily turned over in bed, I suddenly felt the mattress sink beside me. Silas' son had returned. I turned over, facing away from him to continue sleeping, but unexpectedly, he moved closer, wrapping his arms around me from behind, his hands beginning to stir mischief and set my body aflame, just as he was about to slip his hand under my skirt. A faint yet unmistakable scent of roses drifted into my nostrils. It belonged to his unattainable love, Lena Gu. Suddenly wide awake, I pushed him away forcefully, his eyes now tinged with confusion and bewilderment. I grabbed another blanket and pillow from the wardrobe, explaining to him, "I'm on my period. It's not convenient during this time. I'll go sleep in the guest room next door." A hint of displeasure flashed in Silas' son's eyes, but there was nothing wrong with what I said. He had no choice but to nod and let me leave alone with the quilt in my arms. Early the next morning, waking up to see Silas' son busy in the kitchen, I thought I was dreaming. "Tia, go wash up in the bathroom and then come out for breakfast." I looked at the breakfast on the table but didn't say anything, just obediently sat down. I couldn't make it to the wedding that day because something suddenly came up at the company. I know. I picked up a steamed bun, took a bite, and immediately furrowed my brows tightly. I can explain the thing about Lena Gu. It was totally a camera angle trick. We weren't even holding hands at that time. The paparazzi maliciously photoshopped it. It's fine, I understand. As soon as I finished saying this, I couldn't hold back any longer and rushed to the kitchen trash can, spitting out all the buns in my mouth. "What do you mean? If you have any issues with me, just say it directly. There's no need to put on this act and make others guess what's on your mind." Silas' son also slammed down his bowl and chopsticks, kicked the chair aside, grabbed his suit jacket nearby, and was about to leave. "Let's not talk about it for now. I need to go to work." I didn't. Silas' son halted his steps. I slowly stood up and explained to him, "You might have forgotten, I never liked meat buns. I only ate it just now because I didn't want to let your kindness go to waste." But I didn't expect I'd still end up throwing up. He stood frozen for a few seconds, lips pressed tightly together, before finally saying, "I'm sorry, I remembered wrong." I turned around and silently dumped all the remaining buns into the trash. The one who always loved meat buns was never me. It was his white moonlight, Lena Gu. In the evening, my assistant brought me a movie ticket. The CEO said he's sorry about what happened today, so he'd like to invite you to wait for him after work and watch a movie together tonight. I looked at the movie ticket in my hand. It was for a film I'd been wanting to see for a long time. Back then, Silas' son would always make excuses about being too busy with work to go to the movies with me, and I actually thought he genuinely didn't have the time. But now, I glanced at the half-finished script on the table and shook my head. Forget it, I won't look at it. I still have work to do. Let him handle the movie ticket himself. After sending my assistant away, I buried myself in my work again. 2 hours later, I took a break to scroll through my social media feed, and a post by Silas' son caught my attention. The content is, "Rarely have free time from work to watch a movie. Classics are classics for a reason. Truly never get tired of watching them no matter how many times." The accompanying image shows a woman's hand holding popcorn, the diamond ring on that hand gleaming particularly glaringly under the dim lighting. I know, that hand belongs to Lena Gu, and that ring had a major selling point. A man could only custom make one in his lifetime. No wonder Silas' son refused to buy me a diamond ring from this brand no matter how much I begged or pestered him. Turns out he had already bought one long ago, right after landing. My best friend's first move was to call me. I picked up the phone, set aside my work, and hurried to meet her. It's been a while since we last met, and we had such a great conversation that we ended up talking late into the night without realizing it. "By the way, how are things between you and Silas' son? Everything okay now?" my best friend asked. The other day when I was bored scrolling through Weibo, I saw some gossip about Silas' son and Lena Gu. I paused for a moment, then downed the drink in my hand. "It's fine, actually. Them ending up together was something I expected all along, so there's nothing to be upset about." Even though I said that, my best friend could still see the sadness in my eyes, and she hesitated a bit. "There are some things I'm not sure if I should say, but since the two of you have already reached this point, I think it's better for you to know." "Go ahead, it's fine, actually. Do you know why I was always against you being with Silas' son in the first place? The day before you two got together, I happened to witness Silas' son confessing his feelings to Lena Gu. At the time, Lena Gu looked down on Silas' son for being a poor guy, so she decisively rejected his confession. I thought that after being treated like that by Lena Gu, he had given up on her. So when he later got together with you, it was genuine. Who would have thought that the first thing he did after becoming wealthy was to go find his white moonlight Lena Gu? It really proves the saying, men change for the worse when they get rich. After my best friend finished speaking, I maintained a calm expression on the surface, but my whitened fingertips gripping the wine glass betrayed my true feelings. I thought I was strong enough, but hearing this with my own ears still felt like having my heart brutally torn open, the pain so intense it was suffocating. I set down my glass as my phone rang. It was Silas' son calling. "Where are you? Why aren't you home yet at this hour?" His tone carried a hint of reproach. After all, in the past, it had always been me waiting for him late into the night. This was the first time I had ever stayed out so late without returning home. "I'm with young Rong right now. She just returned to the country, and I'm treating her to a welcome dinner. What's up? Do you want to come over and have a drink with her?" "No, you two go ahead and enjoy. You'll take a taxi back later, right? Don't drink too much." Silas' son visibly relaxed upon hearing it was young Rong and hung up without another word. I was startled when I opened the bedroom door. In the darkness, Silas' son's facial expression was unclear as he sat quietly on the sofa. The moment he saw me open the door, he set down the pillow in his hand, took long strides toward me, and pulled me into his arms. "Why did you drink so much?" I was a bit drunk, but still conscious. I pushed him away abruptly. "I was happy today, so I drank a little more. I'm going to take a shower." With that, I turned around, picked up my change of clothes, and headed towards the bathroom. A slender, large hand abruptly stopped me. "What exactly has been going on with you lately?" Silas' son frowned. I heard my own voice, neither warm nor cold. "If you're referring to the matter between you and Lena Gu, I've already said I don't mind. I believe every word you've told me. I'm not talking about this matter." "Then what is it?" I raised my face and, for once, looked him straight in the eye. "Weren't you the one who kept insisting on going to the movies with me? Why did you change your mind? And every time I came home late, you'd always wait for me. Why didn't you even call today?" Holding the clean clothes, I suddenly froze in place. What Silas' son didn't know was that I had already watched this movie countless times, and I could recite every plotline by heart. What truly mattered was never which movie to watch, but who to watch it with. And about the phone call incident, it reminded me of a long time ago. Back then, Silas' son's career was just starting to take off, and he always had social engagements until very late. I was constantly worried about him, so I often waited for him until midnight, calling to ask when he'd be back. But one time he outright lost his patience. "Can't you stop being so annoying? Don't you have your own things to do? Did I ask you to wait for me? If you're tired, just go to sleep. There's no need to do these self-gratifying things that just disgust others." From then on, I'd rather wait alone for him late into the night than ever call him again, something he's probably forgotten by now. But later, his phone rang in the middle of the night. It was Lena Gu calling. Far from being annoyed, he quietly lifted the blanket and went to the windowsill to take the call. The call lasted over an hour. I'm a light sleeper, and when I was woken up, he seemed to be telling some joke that had Lena Gu laughing heartily on the other end. I asked him to keep it down, but he retorted without hesitation. "Lena Gu has been afraid of thunder since she was a child, and now she's sleeping alone, so she really needs someone to comfort her. You're both girls, can't you show a little empathy?" That night, I was the one who couldn't sleep a wink. "Tia Meng, what on earth has been going on with you these days?" Silas' son's fist swung toward me, and I instinctively closed my eyes. When I opened them, there was a small dent in the wall beside me. I haven't seen Silas' son lose control of his emotions like this in a long time. In front of me, he's always been composed, always unflappable. Today's outburst was truly unexpected. I even started wondering, did I really go too far this time? But as an image of Lena Gu flashed through my mind, I suppressed the nausea rising in my throat. Putting down the change of clothes, I went to the nearby cabinet for medicine to apply on Silas' son's hand. "Don't overthink it. I've genuinely been extremely busy these days, so I didn't have time to consider your feelings. It's already very late. I need to take a shower soon, so you should rest early too." Silas' son's expression finally softened considerably. "Go ahead, after your shower. You should move back to the master bedroom and sleep with me." A flawless smile spread across my face. After applying the medicine, I turned and left. In the bathroom, I washed the hand that had just touched Silas' son over a dozen times before finally stopping. All right, taking a deep breath. Now was not the time to reveal my cards. By the time I finished showering, it was already 1 a.m., and Silas' son had fallen asleep, drifting into dreams. Moving quietly, I prepared to carry the blanket back to the guest bedroom, ready for a good night's sleep. The next day was the weekend, and Silas' son was unusually working from home instead of going out. "I bought you breakfast, see if it suits your taste this time." He laid out the purchased breakfast items one by one on the table. Having just finished his workout, he picked up his casual clothes and went back to the bedroom to change. This time, he bought light breakfast options like wontons, seafood porridge, and soy milk, which actually matched my usual preferences quite well. I scooped up a wonton to taste, and indeed, it was quite good this time. Picking up the seafood porridge again, I took a sip, and the strong, pungent fishy odor invaded my nose and mouth. Nauseated, I rushed to the kitchen and began to vomit. What's wrong? Did this batch not suit your taste again? That shouldn't be the case. I specifically bought it according to your preferences this time. Hearing the commotion, Silas' son rushed out of the room, as if suddenly realizing something. He stared at me. Tia Meng, are you pregnant? Before he could finish his words, the phone on the dining table beside him rang. The familiar ringtone indicated it was Lena Gu calling. How did she suddenly get a fever? Is it serious? Has she seen a doctor? Do I really need to go over right now? Alright, I understand. Tell her to lie down and rest properly and eat her breakfast. I'll head over immediately. After hanging up the phone, he grabbed the coat by the table, threw it on, and hurriedly headed for the door. What's wrong? As if suddenly remembering something, he turned back at the entrance. There's something urgent at the company right now. I need to go back and handle it. If you're not feeling well, just rest at home and lie down. If there's anything inconvenient for you to do, leave it to Aunt Chen. I nodded at him with a proper smile, my expression flawless. Okay, I understand. You can go with peace of mind. The hospital was bustling with people coming and going. Everyone's footsteps hurried. Completely unaware of me sitting in the corner, until the computer called my number. Patient 25, please enter consultation room 8. Picking up my bag, I entered the consultation room, and the doctor glanced at my test results. The fetus has developed for 4 weeks and is doing well. Congratulations. A boom echoed in my mind, leaving it blank for a moment. I didn't speak, until the doctor continued asking, are you married? Do you have any gynecological conditions? Or have you had any abortions before? Seeing my silence, the doctor explained, I can only assess your physical condition if I know. Doctor, can this child be aborted? Before he could finish speaking, I interrupted him. It's possible, but if you're married, you should still consult your husband and family. Why don't you call and ask them? I looked up at the doctor and asked, can't I just sign for it myself? The doctor was taken aback for a moment and seemed about to say something more. But upon seeing the resolute expression on my face, he opened a drawer and pulled out a sheet of paper. This is a waiver, proving that you voluntarily choose to terminate the pregnancy. After hesitating for a few seconds, I picked up the pen and signed my name in the designated space without hesitation. This child, he came at the wrong time, lying on the cold surgical table. I could feel the life inside me gradually slipping away. A tear slowly trickled from the corner of my eye. I hope he can be reborn into a better life in his next life and never meet an irresponsible mother like me again. Just after finishing the surgery, my best friend called me. She said there were still some minor details to address in the script, and once we finalized them, we could pretty much start filming on set. As soon as I stepped off the operating table, I went straight to discuss the script with my best friend without hesitation. It was just noon, and my best friend and I were planning to have lunch at the restaurant there. After the meal, we intended to go shopping at the mall. On a whim, we entered an accessories store, only to unexpectedly spot Lena Gu and Silas' son there. Lena Gu was smiling brightly as she held onto Silas' son's arm, showing no signs of being ill at all. We recognized each other because we both had our eyes on the same adorable Hello Kitty plush toy. Silas, I want this. The girl puckered her lips playfully, pointing at the last plush toy in my hand as she spoke. When I turned around and the gazes of 3 people met, we all fell into silence. The first to react was Silas' son, who withdrew his hand from Lena Gu's grasp like a child caught doing something wrong. Tia Meng, what are you doing here? Yeah, Yang Rong and I just finished dinner. Now we're out shopping. What's up? I smiled gently and appropriately at Silas' son, as if Lena Gu beside him simply didn't exist. What made you suddenly think of coming to these places too? Silas' son's expression instantly turned very unpleasant, appearing both surprised and somewhat hurt. Tomorrow night is our 5th wedding anniversary. I came to buy you a gift. I suddenly realized. So that's how it is. You didn't forget, did you? Silas' son's tone was thick with disappointment. I smiled awkwardly. To be honest, if he hadn't reminded me, I would have completely forgotten about it. But his disappointment was understandable, because for every wedding anniversary before this one, every time without exception, I prepare a month in advance, handling everything from booking the restaurant and setting up the scene to arranging the commemorative photo shoot, all by myself. All he has to do is show up briefly on the day, then look at my delighted face with disdain and say, what's the point of celebrating? It's the same thing every year. How boring. At this thought, a bitter feeling rises in my heart. I look up at him and smile. Didn't you say before that these anniversaries are boring? Let's just skip it this year. Silas' son's figure swayed slightly, and I saw his lips tremble. We're celebrating. Who said we're not? I'll be waiting for you at home tomorrow. Not going anywhere. Silas' son, Lena Gu raised her voice. Seemingly displeased at being sidelined, I said that Hello Kitty is adorable, and I want it. Silas' son looked at me and then at Lena Gu, frowning. Don't you already have one of these at home? Why do you want another one? Calling you a straight man and you still won't admit it. Lena Gu pouted at Silas' son. Can't you see? This one is bigger and cuter than the one I have at home. You know I've been a Hello Kitty fan since I was little, seeing Lena Gu insist on having the toy in my hand. Silas' son was in a dilemma. He reluctantly spoke up. Maybe you should just take this. Before I could respond, my best friend beside me finally couldn't stand it anymore. Lena Gu, have you no shame? Why do you have to snatch everything from my best friend? You already stole her man. Fine, whatever. He was just a useless pretty face anyway, and now you're even trying to take a toy from someone else. What? Is everything that belongs to others so irresistible to you? If others were to eat shit, would you go eat shit too? Lena Gu burst into tears at this string of insults, as if she had suffered some great injustice. Silas' son looked at the three of us, hesitating to speak. In the end, I took the initiative to hand the doll to Lena Gu. Here, take it. I don't want this toy anymore. I picked up my bag and brushed past the two of them, unaware that my hospital diagnosis records had fallen to the ground. They were promptly picked up by Silas' son. Stayed up late again discussing scripts with my bestie, and just as I was about to reach home, a heavy rain started pouring outside. The moment I opened the door, I saw someone sitting on the sofa in the darkness. Silas' son, holding a cigarette in his fingers, sat in the corner and spoke in a hoarse voice. Why, how could you be so heartless? Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant and just went ahead with the abortion? I froze at the door, hesitating to step inside, and after a long silence. No reason, I just suddenly didn't want it anymore. He strode over with his long legs, grabbed my arm, and pinned me down on the sofa. How can you be so heartless? That was our child, a living, breathing life. Silas' son gripped my chin, saying through gritted teeth, do you think I don't know? All your recent behavior towards me is because of Lena Gu, but I'd rather you yell at me, lose your temper with me, than see you in this half-dead state you're in now. If you're unhappy with me, you can hit me. You can scold me. Why does it have to be like this? I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I felt the rush of a fist brushing past my ear, the couch beside me sinking deeply as Silas' son's breath, now dangerously close, fanned across my face. Just as I was about to push him away in disgust, I felt a warm sensation against my neck. Silas' son, who had never shed a single tear in front of me, was actually crying. I sighed, gently pushed him away, straightened my clothes, and sat on the sofa. Silas' son. Let's have a proper talk. Silas' son grabbed his own hair in frustration, his eyes reddened beyond recognition. Turning around, I took out a stack of photos from the drawer and threw them directly at Silas' son. Thanks to you that night, I was able to capture these explosive shots. Silas' son was stunned and hastily picked up the photos. The photos were taken on the night when Silas' son suddenly sent me a message saying he loved me. A woman's intuition immediately led me to contact the paparazzi to follow and photograph Silas' son. The result was capturing images of Silas' son and Lena Gu holding hands as they entered a hotel, their behavior intimate, even passionately kissing in the elevator. Lena Gu stood on tiptoe in the elevator, while Silas' son lowered his head to kiss her, clearly overcome with emotion. Then, the two entered the room together. I don't need to describe what happened next in too much detail, do I? I said coldly, I didn't. Silas' son, however, shook his head with a pale face and said to me, I admit I was truly moved that night and almost went all the way with Lena Gu, but at the last moment, I thought of you, so I held back. I swear I never betrayed you. 16, I chuckled lightly. What does it matter if nothing happened? Does the shade of green on a cuckold's hat make any difference? You knew perfectly well that Lena Gu has been a thorn in my heart all these years. You knew I've always been bothered by her existence, yet you never considered my feelings, repeatedly engaging with her. Silas' son, I'm not a fool. If you two have feelings for each other, I can choose to walk away empty-handed and leave you to her. But none of this justifies you directly aborting the child. He suddenly broke down and said, after all, this is a living life, because I don't love you anymore, I said softly. The crying suddenly stopped, and Silas' son stood frozen in place. The air was so quiet that the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. After what felt like an eternity, a knock 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 came from outside the door. Silas' son, are you home? It's thundering and raining again today. I'm scared. Lena Gu's voice came from outside the door. Silas' son froze in place, not moving for a long time. Seeing this, I stood up to open the door but was pulled back by a hand. His eyes were bloodshot. "Don't open the door." I pulled his hand away. "Didn't you say Lena Gu is a girl who's timid and terrified of thunder, leaving her alone outside? I was afraid you'd worry." I smiled and pulled Silas' son's hand away, then opened the door. Where Silas' son, Lena Gu, opened the door and was visibly disappointed to see it was me, her eyes constantly darting around the room until she spotted Silas' son. Without even glancing at me, she excitedly pushed me aside and threw herself into Silas' son's arms. "What's wrong with you? I called you today and you didn't answer. You have no idea how scared I was being home alone today," the girl muttered and playfully feigned anger, patting Silas' son's shoulder, only to be forcefully thrown to the ground by Silas' son. Lena Gu was caught off guard by the sudden throw and slammed into the corner of the table, the pain bringing tears to her eyes. "What's wrong with you today? Did you eat gunpowder? Why are you so fiery-tempered? I finally mustered the courage to come to your house to see you, and this is how you treat me? I'll never be nice to you again." Silas' son, however, sneered coldly. "Who asked you to come looking for me? If you were really scared, you could have called your assistant. Did you dare to come out alone in the rain to find me?" Lena Gu's sobbing stopped abruptly. She froze for a second, staring at Silas' son in disbelief. "You were the one who said you'd always be there. But is that a reason for you to disregard my wife's feelings, barge into my home, and throw yourself into my arms? Lena Gu, you've crossed the line. Get away from me." Silas' son glared coldly at Lena Gu, making no move to help her up. In the end, it was me who lifted Lena Gu to her feet. I shook my head at Lena Gu with a smile. "It's fine. Anyway, I'm about to divorce Silas' son. You're free to do whatever you want with him." Lena Gu's expression changed, a flash of resentment crossing her face as she pushed me away roughly. "Who needs your fake sympathy? You're probably laughing at me secretly inside, seeing me treated like this. Watch your behavior." Lena Gu, Silas' son, wanted to come over and help me up, but I refused. "Tell her. Is there really anything between us?" Lena Gu asked in horror. "What do you mean? Are you denying all the moments we've shared? You stayed by my side when I was sick, called to comfort me to sleep during thunderstorms, and even gave me a ring you could only buy once in a lifetime. What do all these things count for? Consider it a momentary lapse of judgment. I've thought it through. It's true that when I heard the news of your return, my heart wavered, but after all these days together, I've realized that my heart has always belonged to Tia Meng alone." "You bastard." A clear slap mark appeared on Silas' son's face, yet he showed no sign of anger. "Consider this slap as what I owed you. Now I've returned it, and we're even." "Silas' son, I will never forgive you in this lifetime." With that, Lena Gu covered her mouth and dashed into the rain, disappearing into the downpour. From that day on, communication between me and Silas' son became increasingly rare. Since I was about to join a film crew, I asked him for a divorce, but he absolutely refused to agree. I had never seen him cry so many times in front of me in my entire life. "Tia, I admit I was wrong all these years, always neglecting your feelings. From now on, I won't miss a single day of your life." "Okay, you love Hello Kitty, right? I'll buy them for you. As many as you want. The movie you wanted to watch before. As long as you still want to see it, I'll go with you anytime." "Okay." Later, he even held my hand, crying, and said to me, "I know you were completely disappointed in me because of that wedding before. Can we have another one?" But none of this could ever make me look at him again. On the contrary, my work has become increasingly busy. But before entering the closed set filming for the crew, I didn't forget to file for divorce in court. Anyway, this marriage with Silas' son is definitely over for me. 2 months flew by in a flash, and after the crew wrapped up filming, I successfully obtained the divorce certificate from Silas' son. With 2 happy events coming together, I drank exceptionally more at the celebration banquet that night. Just stepped out of the restaurant with my colleagues when I saw Silas' son pulling up in a car right at the entrance. Compared to his former high-spirited self, he now looked considerably more haggard. Tia Meng, upon seeing me, he quickly got out of his car, even flashing an ingratiating smile. "Wow, this man is so handsome. Is he your boyfriend?" A colleague from the film crew next to me looked at Silas' son with starry eyes, and I smiled faintly. "No, he's my ex-husband." The colleague immediately retracted the starry-eyed gaze. "Sorry, my mistake. This guy is just average, and he's got stubble all over. Since you two have things to discuss, I'll take off now. I know I was wrong, and now I want to pursue you again. I understand you might not accept me right now, but no matter how long it takes, I'll wait for you." As soon as he saw me, he excitedly grabbed my hand, but I pushed him away immediately. I said coldly, "Be realistic. It's over between us. There's no possibility anymore." "No, I won't accept it. I absolutely refuse. I can't live without you. Silas' son burst into tears again the moment he saw me. He tried to come over and hug me, but I dodged him. Not far away, a tall young man approached, wearing a clean white shirt. I saw him and instantly my eyes curved into crescents as I waved at him. He immediately ran over to me like a puppy, obediently calling out, "Sister." I smiled at Silas' son and said, "Let me introduce you, this is my boyfriend."